This is a total recap of The Walking Dead's Carol, giving you everything you need to know about this iconic character before her triumphant return in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol.
That's quite a mouthful.
So we're going to recap and break down Carol's entire journey over the 11 seasons of The Walking Dead series, all leading up to her triumphant return in the second season of the Daryl Dixon spin-off series. So season 1 of The Walking Dead introduced Carol as a timid and abused housewife and mother who was far from one of the show's lead characters. Melissa McBride wasn't even credited in the opening credits of the show, nor was Norman Reedus' Daryl Dixon. Carol is introduced as part of the small group of survivors in Atlanta being led by Shane, that is, until Rick Grimes arrives. Carol is accompanied by her abusive husband Ed and her daughter Sophia. Carol is very submissive to Ed, who is verbally and physically abusive to both Carol and their daughter Sophia. But that all changes when Shane sets him straight.
You put your hands on your wife, your little girl, anybody else in this camp one more time, I will not stop next time. Do you hear me?
Soon after, Ed is eaten by walkers during an attack on the camp, and Carol and Sophia are finally out from under his thumb. After the group leaves the CDC, they make their way to Fort Benning. When overwhelmed by a herd of walkers on the highway, Sophia is separated from the group. The group spends the entire first half of season 2 searching for Sophia, Daryl especially.
I'm gonna walk the road. Look for the girl.
At this time, Carol is still serving as a bit of a background character, but she did get some great moments like this one.
Everyone either avoids me or they treat me like I'm crazy. I lost my daughter. I didn't lose my mind.
It's then revealed that Sophia has been in the barn full of walkers on Herschel's farm this entire time.
The whole time you would... The whole time?
The loss of Carol's daughter and the confirmation that she is indeed dead hardened Carol, and it set her down a path of coming out of her shell and becoming one of the show's strongest warriors and most determined survivors. Carol, through the years, became a very matter-of-fact type character. Carol, even before Rick, became the type of character who knew tough choices would have to be made in order to survive in this world. After their arrival at the prison and the death of Lori, Carol became one of Judith Grimes' primary caregivers. And honestly, Carol kind of became a bit of a mother hen to the entire group. It was also during this prison arc of the series that we saw the strong bond between Daryl and Carol really begin to form.
It's pretty romantic. Screw around.
Carol takes on a leadership position at the prison following Rick stepping down as the leader after their first war with the governor. We also see her essentially adopt these two young girls, Lizzie and Mika, following the death of their father.
Your daddy asked me to protect you like you're my own, and I will.
But we also see the brutal side of Carol begin to emerge. Her years of abuse and many losses in this post-apocalyptic world haven't changed the fact that she's a good person, but she does develop a cold side to her personality, which does some terrible things for the safety of the group. Rick soon discovered that it was indeed Carol who was responsible for killing Karen and David and burning their bodies in hopes of stopping the spread of an illness plaguing the prison.
Did you kill Karen and David?
Yes.
Upon learning this brutal truth, Rick banishes Carol from the group, once again showing that Carol was ahead of Rick in her path to becoming a brutal survivalist in this new world.
When the others find out, they won't want you there. If everybody dies of this thing and it's just the two of us, I won't have you there.
Carol is on her own for a little while, but when she decides to return to the prison, she finds it on fire and overrun by walkers following the governor's attack in the season 4 mid-season finale, my personal favorite episode of the series. When the group is separated following the governor's attack, we see Tyrese escape with a thought-to-be-dead Judith Grimes as well as the two girls, Lizzie and Mika. On the run, Tyrese and the kids are reunited with Carol.
How'd you find it? Where were you?
Carol is nervous at first because she fears that Rick told Tyrese that Carol was the one who killed his late girlfriend, Karen. And Rick did try to tell Tyrese about this truth, but they were interrupted by the governor's aforementioned attack.
Whoever did this, I don't think that's who killed Karen.
So, Carol, Tyrese, and the girls are now on the road, and we soon learn that young Lizzie isn't well. She's mentally ill and very confused about what it means to be a walker.
They're gonna find one in there and they're going to stop it. They aren't people. But you're wrong.
All of you.
Lizzie kills her sister and is about to kill Judith. Carol and Tyrese are able to save Judith by talking Lizzie down. Carol then takes Lizzie on a walk into the woods where she tells her to look at the flowers and then shoots her in the back of the head.
Just look at the flowers, Lizzie.
Here, Carol is once again losing a daughter in a very tragic and emotionally scarring way. We also see Carol finally tell Tyrese the truth about her being the one who killed Karen and David.
I killed Karen and David.
I forgive you.
And then we get to Terminus.
Looks like you've been on the road a while.
We have.
Let's get you settled and we'll make you a plate. Welcome to Terminus.
All of the splinter groups from the prison, except for Carol, Tyrese, and Judith, have converged at Terminus, the group of cannibals disguised as a place of refuge and sanctuary.
You're the butcher or you're the cattle.
Right as Rick, Daryl, Bob, and Glenn are about to be bled out by the cannibals, there is a massive explosion caused by none other than Carol. We see Carol then infiltrate Terminus and kill a lot of cannibals along the way. This allows for Rick and the gang to escape, and they then reunite with Carol in the woods outside of Terminus.
Did you do that?
Carol has fully transitioned from a helpless and timid housewife to a strong, independent, fearless, ruthless survivalist warrior. But she's simultaneously able to mask herself in her former persona to keep threats from suspecting her strengths. Once the group arrives at the community Alexandria, Carol becomes a bit of a chameleon.
Even though you were wrong, you're still right.
She retakes that housewife persona while simultaneously serving as a right-hand woman to Rick Grimes, a Rick Grimes who has slowly begun to realize that Carol was right about what it takes to survive.
Seem ready?
For what?
To handle things.
When Rick and the other Warrioress members of the group are away, we see Alexandria attacked by a group called the Wolves. And Carol almost single-handedly takes them all down in a brutal and stealth-like fashion.
We have to get to the armory before they do. If we keep moving, this might work.
You don't have to kill people.
Of course we do.
But we have to remember, despite Carol's embrace of a survivalist mentality, she is still a mother. She's a person who spent decades of her life in the old world. She's a good-hearted person, and the many, many kills and constant conflicts begin to take a toll on her.
I love you all here. I do. And I'd have to kill for you. And I can't.
Carol ultimately decides to leave Alexandria and live in another community, the Kingdom, an ally of Alexandria in their eventual fight against Negan. We also see the relationship between Carol and King Ezekiel begin to blossom.
Thank you, Your Majesty. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is mine, Carol.
Carol briefly removes herself from the group to live on her own in solitude.
Apparently some people are having a hard time believing me when I say I just want to be left alone.
While Carol is away, we see the arrival of Negan, who kills Glenn and Abraham. It is then Morgan Jones, who has suffered similar traumas to Carol, who finds and tells Carol what has transpired. Carol is then pulled back into the fight and reluctantly puts her killing skills to use against Negan and the Saviors.
Don't, please!
After the war with Negan, Carol and Ezekiel embrace their love for one another, and together they adopt a young orphan boy named Henry.
Hey, you forgetting something? Thanks.
Years pass, Negan is locked away, and Rick blows up a bridge to stop a Walker horde from attacking. Rick then washes up on a riverbank and is taken away in a helicopter to a faraway community, but he's presumed dead for years.
You're gonna be okay. We're gonna save you.
You can check out The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live to get the story on Rick. So this post-war peace lasts for several years, but of course it doesn't last forever. We soon meet the Whisperers, a group of feral survivalists who live in the woods and wear the faces of the dead.
My people, the Whisperers, we live as nature intended.
The group is led by Alpha, who orchestrates an attack on the Kingdom where Carol's adopted son is decapitated and his head is put on a spike. Carol's darker half reemerges, and she is determined to get her revenge against Alpha for the murder of her son and other members of the survivors group. Carol ends up releasing Negan from his jail cell in Alexandria and strikes a deal with him. If Negan is able to infiltrate the Whisperers and kill Alpha, he will be welcomed into the survivors group as one of their own, and he will no longer be bound to his jail cell. Negan agrees and is successful in taking down Alpha.
Took you long enough.
A new threat then emerges with the introduction of the Commonwealth, a very advanced community of survivors led by Pamela Milton, a corrupt politician.
It's not easy, having so many lives in your hands. How do you pick who does the jobs no one wants?
Who gets the nicer house?
Carol infiltrates the Commonwealth and plays a major role in helping to defeat Pamela.
Traitor! No. You are governor.
As the original series comes to a close, Daryl Dixon embarks on a solo journey that lands him in Paris, France.
How did you come to be in France?
Bunch of bad decisions.
That's of course the story of the first season of Daryl Dixon. But in the upcoming second season, subtitled The Book of Carol, we'll see Carol embark on her own journey to find Daryl, her best friend, and bring him back home.
I'm looking for a friend of mine. Name's Daryl Dixon.
And that was a total recap of the character of Carol from The Walking Dead. I've been your host, Colton Ogburn, and I'll see you on the next Total Recap.
What about the guy you lobotomized? Did he get a refund? I have to hand it to you. It's the best mindfuck yet.